I want to welcome our guest host for today, Barbara Bookman, University Director, Disability Programs at City University of New York. Barbara, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with all of you. I wish I could see you though, but it's great to spend some time with you. And what I'm hoping to do is provide you some information about CUNY in general, CUNY disability services that we provide, and of course, the issues that are so relevant to everybody and concerning to all of us right now is CUNY during COVID and hopefully CUNY after COVID. So by way of getting started, I'd like to just paint a brief picture of the university, just so we really all have an idea of what it is that we're talking about. So first of all, CUNY is based of 25 different campuses. We have community colleges, senior colleges, law school, medical school, graduate school. So it's very comprehensive all through the city. We do support approximately 500,000 students in degree and non-degree programs. And of the students that we service, about 279,000 students are degree matriculated, going for a degree at the colleges. And we support approximately 11,000 students with disabilities. And when I say that, those are only the students that we know about, because for those of you that are familiar, at the college level, a student must self-identify. So if they come to us, provide documentation, come to the office, and let us know that they have a disability, then we are able to support the student, work with the student, and we welcome working confidentially with all students. So those are the students that we know about. We believe there are many others that have not disclosed that we don't know about. Every campus has a disability. Some call it accessibility. They have a variety of different names, but there is an office on each and every campus where students can come and get support services. So as far as I want to focus on some of the special programs for students with disabilities, and then we're going to get into COVID. So first of all, as I mentioned, there is the disability office on every single campus, and that's where people will come and talk about whatever accommodations they need or services in order to have complete access to their education at CUNY. We have a few other very unique programs that are worth sharing, and I hope whoever's listening, if you're part of CUNY and eligible, that you do take advantage of it. First, we have CUNY Leads. What that is, it's called Linking Employment, Academics, and Disability Services. And what CUNY Leads does is provide an advisor on each and every campus for students in order to focus on career initiatives and possibly some of those other areas that a student may not really be able to get quite the support they need in the general career services. So this is kind of a supplement to that. We can talk about areas of disclosure. Sometimes employers come to us because they're looking for their diversity needs. So we advise, we work on soft skills, resumes. It's just an additional support to make sure that our students that are known to us and want to work in this area towards their employment have that extra piece of support. Then what we found was over the years recently, we started noticing that we have a growing number of students on the autism spectrum. So we were fortunate enough to start a grant called Project Reach. And what that is it focuses on our students with autism to provide. It enhances the university's capacity to support students with some of the unique issues that come along with autism and make sure that students have, again, a full, rich academic experience at the college. There are 5 pilot campuses that have a Project Reach program, And those campuses also develop best practice, mentor practices, universal design practices, and they support the university as well. So when we started this program about 7 years ago, we identified 200 students. Since that has been growing, we have now over 800 autistic students we know on the campus. And interestingly, they're in all campuses, all majors, and really just the usual general variety of interests and activities as all students. Another program that we have is called CUNY Leads Plus. And what that is a program that is sponsored by AccessVR. And what CUNY Leads Plus is, we say it's for students who need everything CUNY Leads has, plus a little more. It specializes on our neurodivergent students, and they have an AccessVR counselor who works with them. So that has been a new program that has been very successful in the campus. I want to stop for a second just to say, no, I'm sorry, there aren't notes, but there is a handout that does have the different programs available. And I also welcome at any time emails or calls, all right? And I want to also talk about, while we're talking about the programs, I'm going to address this quick question, not so quick, but how do you encourage students to identify, to self-identify? That is a great question. And, you know, I want to say over the years, I used to be a disability director at one of the community colleges. And what we often found was year one, when students transitioned out of high school, a lot of times they said, I had special ed. I don't want to be known. I don't want a spotlight. And the best thing that we try to explain to students is there's no spotlight. You're totally confidential. We're here for support. It could be course by course, class by class, if you need extra time to take a test, and that there's no more such thing as special ed. But if you need certain services, we're here to provide it, and we're here for support. I think when students are leaving high school, that's really the time we love to see students get tours, talk to the disability counselors, talk to the people at the transition centers, and really get an understanding of what support services are at the college, because it is very different. And it's something that I can't say enough how important it is. We'd sometimes see students coming in, again, not identifying, and semester one would be a little bit of a mess because they wouldn't get what they need. And then they realize, hey, this is good. They would come to us and they would get their supports, and we would do a lot better. So hopefully you can, if anybody is working with students or is a student or a parent, a relative of a student, please let them know that we are here to help, work with you, work confidentially as needed. So that's just a little bit of background about CUNY as a university, or what we are in general. Now, I know right now, obviously, we're all concerned about COVID, how it's affecting our students, how the learning is going, what we'll be doing going forward. And believe me, it has been a major issue. So just to put, I want to put a little time perspective on it. The semester began, the spring semester began on most of our campuses in late January. So figure they're there January, we're hearing about COVID, we're hearing stories, it's getting there. And we're, hearing all of a sudden, March 12th, we were put on pause. Everything had to stop. And again, just in perspective how quick this happened, we usually put on a neurodiversity conference at the university. And we always do this on March 12th and 13th. That was our date this year, March 12th and 13th. March 5th, 1 week before, we were saying, I don't know, should we cancel? Should we go ahead? What should we do? And all of a sudden, how quickly from the time we thought about it a week prior to the week it was supposed to happen, within 1 week, we went on pause. So what happened was the university had to stop. Needless to say, we needed to go remote. Most students take their classes. We do have online and we do have hybrid classes, but most students are here, in class, taking their classes in person. So in those 5 days, our chancellor, who is really kind of an amazing leader, and I think I have found out since this whole thing started, I don't think Felix Matos Rodriguez requires any sleep. He assembled teams, committees, groups, and we had to pivot immediately. So what we had now was 50,000 courses, 50,000 course sections, and about 279,000 students needed to go online right away. So in those 5 days, we had learning program, really programs for faculty, for administration, for students. Everybody needed to get ready. The learning curve was very, very steep. We have faculty that have been around for years and are not as tech savvy. We have faculty, and I say the same thing about students. Everybody comes with a different degree of how comfortable they are in technology, and also adjusting to go from face-to-face to doing something remotely. I can tell you right now, I'm so used to talking to people in person, it's a little strange for me to be talking to you without seeing you. So students and faculty had to go through the same adjustment. But what the university needed to do initially to prepare for going online is be sure everybody had technology. We have many students that do not have the technology they need at home. They don't have a laptop, they don't have a computer, they were really struggling. So the university purchased 30,000 laptops and distributed them right away to people who needed them. So one of our first activities was really to ensure that everybody had what they needed in order to take care of the academics and in order to have access to their courses. Then everything needed to be remote, and not just classes, but our financial aid, career services, admissions, counseling, our disability offices. So we needed to be sure that we were all available remotely to all of our students. Then what happened was, I see somebody, and I'm going to get to this. I see a question here from BMCC about how there's a variety in learning. The transition was a bit of a challenge. For some people, it went terrific. For some courses, it went terrific. Some, it was more of a struggle. So the university, recognizing that this was going to be a problem, offered, for one thing, just as a grading system, they gave students the opportunity to do a credit, no credit. If they were concerned that their grade was going to suffer or was going to be a little bit different, they offered them the opportunity not to take a grade in a class, but just to get credit. We also altered the date when a class can be dropped. It could be later. Another thing that was done to support students during COVID, and this is all students, not just, students with disabilities are no different than any other student at the college. They deal with every other issue and they work with every other service as well. So there, many students had some really difficult struggles. Families lost jobs, people lost income, students lost jobs, people lost family members. There was so much to deal with in every which direction. One thing that was set up is there was a chancellor's emergency, some relief grants where they were identifying the students who were the most seriously in need, and they were able to provide some relief grants to help the students. There were food vouchers provided to some students who were in need. Our pantries, we made sure that the pantries were fully up and stocked. So, supports all around for students were put in place. Now, some specific supports for students with disabilities that I want to address is, for many students that require certain kind of assistive technologies, they would take exams or do studying and have access to the assistive technology in the labs on campus, which were available on every campus across the university. So now we needed to be sure, we worked with our CATS program, our CUNY Assistive Technology program. We had to ensure that if a student needs a specialized technology, whether it be like a Zoom tech, a JAWS, you know, a Kurzweil, whatever it is that they may need, that they have access to that at home on their laptop at home. So we needed to be sure and reach out that all of our students had these issues or these availability. We also needed, in some cases, to revisit accommodations. You may have one kind of accommodation on campus, and now that you're taking a course at home, that may change. Whether it be a timed test in a certain kind of scenario, whether it be a certain technology that's used. Again, we needed to revisit because, you know, things, again, aren't always the same when you're in-house or at home. Then what we found is we discovered more students that suddenly had onset of anxiety, depression. There were disability issues and trauma issues that were coming up that we were now getting to see students that we hadn't even seen before. So we needed to be sure that we were available for this as well. So that was happening. Another thing, we wanted to make sure, absolutely be sure, our students weren't isolated. So the disability offices, the counselors, the leads advisors, everybody who worked with students, we really wanted to be sure a student was connected. So we made sure everybody got a phone call, email, Zoom, Microsoft Teams. The connection was really important to be sure students were staying with us, or if they had a problem, we wanted to know about it so we can get in there and help in any which way we can. You know, again, years ago, having been a campus disability director, I used to say to students, if you feel frustrated, if you feel like walking and leaving, please walk here first and let's talk about it. When a student is at home and we're not on campus, we can't see that happening. We don't know if the student is attending class. So that's why we've really tried to make sure that we can keep connections going as strong as we can. I'm just taking a look. I think I'm just looking at a question here. I'm just trying to read. I want to be sure I want to address what your concerns are. The required accommodation, like readers, interpreters, when they're taking classes at home. Again, those accommodations need to be addressed individually, just as they are on campus. So I would say, be sure that the student is in touch with the disability director or the counselor that they work with on campus to address those, because these accommodations, what an accommodation the student gets on campus, what's needed, we want to make sure that that accommodation or a necessarily equivalent is put in place at home. So if you feel that you're not receiving what you need, or you haven't set up what you need, or it's not exactly comfortable for you, please respond, talk to the counselor on the campus, the disability, all right? So in addition, tutoring has been set up as e-tutoring. So students have the ability to sign on to an e-tutoring center, and this is not just students with disabilities, this is all students, but often students with disabilities do get additional time, or through the disability office, there could be additional services available. So that is something that is there. But now, beyond the academics, I think one of the things that was really, or that we found was really important, that we just did not want to set aside, again, you're taking your classes at home, everybody has this stay-at-home order, people are really feeling isolated and frustrated. So we wanted to keep the co-curricular activities going. And especially as somebody who represents Students for Disabilities, we wanted to be sure that this was being addressed. So clubs, campus clubs, they were set up virtually. They were moved to a virtual format, and that's clubs across the university, all interests, all areas. We have across the university, some of you may or not be familiar with the CUNY Coalition for Students with Disabilities, and that is a disability organization that brings students from across the university together. They set up for their students just during the month of April, which is our CUNY Disability Awareness Month, over 20 online activities. So whether it be a movie night, whether it be there was dance evenings, you know, at home, Zoom dance parties, there were a variety, at least, you know, a couple times a week, there was something set up that students could participate to make sure people were staying connected and just available to each other. Now, through CUNY Leads, we also set up one of the things, since that we often focus with students on employment and preparing for employment and getting ready for the next steps after college, we wanted to be sure that students weren't losing sight of their career goals and, you know, just getting, you know, it's easy when you're staying at home or if you've lost your job or you hear about all of these job cuts. We really wanted to keep that going. We were sharing any online, you know, remote activities, employment activities. We had a couple of events we called Support and Connect, and they were career related with panelists. We had people that are still hiring. We had students, a student in particular who had gone remote. And we always made sure that on all of our panels, we had a mental health expert, because again, students were suffering from a lot of anxiety, a lot of concerns. What is their future going to be like? And we really want to be sure that we're there to address some of these issues. And even if a student needs, you know, services beyond what we can provide, we want to be sure to help them make that connection. So we had Support and Connect, and what that launched is something that's going to be permanent with us at CUNY, and that's called Leads Online. And what Leads Online is, it's a monthly evening, it's a third Thursday, this is gonna be tomorrow night, third Thursday of every month, and this is going to be career-related panels, interest groups, discussions. Tomorrow it's going to be reimagining the world of work after COVID, because we do think there's going to be a lot of changes, a lot of differences, and we want students to really kind of start focusing and connect in this particular area. So that's actually what we're doing tomorrow night on Leads Online, and that's followed by CCSD is having a movie night. So it's really beyond activity, it's beyond academics. We really still want to be a university that is there for the students in so many different ways, which kind of brings me to graduation, which again, needless to say, across the country, our graduations are online. They are virtual, but we honor all students who are going to graduate. So that is what is happening. I see a question about a CUNY dorm project for youth in foster care. Okay, there's a question here. Sometimes if a student doesn't have a formally diagnosed disability, but you suspect they have a disability and require accommodations, that's kind of a tough area, because needless to say, you can't say to somebody, do you have a disability? And at the college level, a person must disclose on their own, unlike K through 12, where student will be brought out, you know, identified. what we've often done is if we work with a student and we really see a struggle, we can just ask them simply, when you were in high school, did you get any kind of extra services, or, did you struggle with a certain area? It often leads to a disclosure discussion. It's a matter of just sometimes getting to talk to a student, getting that comfort level where they may talk about it. And if they just know of what is out there, it helps, which is why we always try at every orientation, every step of the way, letting students know what services are out there. So I know it's a tough question to answer because it comes in many different ways, but usually if a student struggles enough, at some point that disability will be disclosed. And it's sometimes what we sometimes see, especially in some of the areas of our neurodiverse students, they may behave in certain ways that may be considered inappropriate and end up in a kind of a behavioral area, maybe at the dean's office, where they start out being reprimanded and then we find out it's a disability, and that often is helpful for the student. So depending on the student, there's really so many different ways. But ideally, clearly, we do want to be able to get that student to comfortably identify so we can work with them. So let me get back to a minute. Graduation, again, this is the time. It's unfortunate that we can't be in person. Some of the campuses, I understand, are inviting students, if they want to participate next year as well, they can walk in next year's graduation. But right now we're having just a lot of virtual celebrations. It doesn't stop the achievement that somebody has had. Summer school, as we know by the governor's orders, by the pause, summer school is fully online, and that has already been determined. It is set. Summer school will be online. One of the things that we can say is there was such a quick pivot, as I see from the question regarding a student who had, different levels of comfort in different classes or felt their professors had different levels of comfort. When it gets to, again, the pivot time was 5 days. All right, I'm trying to find the right words. We had 5 days to convert. We had a steep learning curve. I think it was really very gracefully done, kind of eloquently done, considering how many students, professors, courses were involved. But the pivot was quick. The preparation time was very, very condensed. So I think we have, let's say, always trying to learn from our errors or learn where we can keep improving it. So we think summer school will continue to be smoother. Getting back to when we originally went online, we found in the very beginning, we felt that there were glitches. So our chancellor said to us, again, pause. We stopped for several days and then reconfigure it again. So straight through the semester, there have been endless amount. I cannot tell you how much is going on behind the scenes in terms of preparing and making sure that students do, that the online transition is fairly smooth. As far as the fall, here's the big question. The answer is we don't know. It is not really up to the university completely. We need to hear from the governor. We need to see, it's a very fluid situation that is evolving. So will we be in person? We are right now preparing different scenarios. We want to be prepared for everything. And right now we do luckily have some time, instead of those 5 days in March, we have time to prepare. So what we are looking at right now is a return to campus. If that happens, we need to be fully prepared to be sure that it's a very safe adjustment, that the campuses are safe, the students are safe, the faculty. So there will be a lot of precautions put into place, and it may involve smaller classes. It may, we're not, it's being discussed. It's being planned as we speak. There's another scenario of if we go fully online, we want to be prepared for that. And then there's the possibility of maybe certain courses, say labs or some classes that are harder to do online, may be in person. But it's an evolving situation. It's really not something that we have an answer to right now. The only thing that we can say is, in this world, and we never thought we'd quite say it like this, but you really need to expect the unexpected sometime. So with the arrival of COVID, we really had to do some very quick, some very unexpected pivots. We created teams, we developed resources. We will be there for the students. And we, however we need to be flexible, whatever we need to do, depending on what the conditions are, we are going to try to be there in every way that we can. So again, what I would say to students, to faculty, to families, one of the things we want you to know is do not feel that you're in it alone. Do not feel the supports are gone because the offices are physically closed. The offices are virtually open. Everything is open. If anybody is still thinking of applying, it's not too late. Our admissions offices are still open, but most of all, we are here and we will try to be as flexible as we possibly can. So that's basically a bit of the overview. What I'd like to do is look at some of your questions. And I see one has to do with AccessVR. They would not support the son's goals in the film industry. They were talking about retail or office work. Okay, Leads, and the question is Leads Plus different because the students are in college? No, Leads Plus, again, is a support for students who are in college who we know can succeed, but are going to need a little bit more support, often for neurodivergent reasons. So it could be help with executive functioning. It could be help working with others with soft skills, organizing coursework. That's what Leads Plus is about. AccessVR, I can't speak for why they wouldn't support the goal in the film industry. That's between student and counselor. Right now, I know AccessVR is not taking new applications at this moment. They are working with the students who are already in their roles, in their caseloads, or have already applied prior to the shutdown. As soon as they're able to reopen their offices, they will start taking new students. But they do generally try to establish a goal and say, okay, the path to this goal for your scenario is this. You may want to talk further with that AccessVR counselor about those goals. It's something that, without knowing, there's not much we could say, but just talk about that. Okay, classes online in the fall, I think we answered that. The e-tutoring centers, I will have to get back with it. There are e-tutoring centers. I'm sorry, I do not have the exact link, but I will provide that. I will follow that, okay? Somebody said you need to remind your professors about the accommodations. I would go back to the disability office and have a conversation, all right? I'm not sure that I understand what that means because I'm not sure how that was addressed, but we tell students, work with your disability director or the designee in that office on your accommodations. If there are concerns, if you have an accommodation, it doesn't seem to be working out right, talk again. Nothing is etched in stone. We are there to try to help you and make sure that you have an appropriate. All right. Students, this is the same person. Professors training with accommodations, please understand, a professor is not the person who provides an accommodation. It is for a disability. It is the director of the Office of Disability or that designee. That is the only person who can talk about and designate a disability under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Sometimes professors, they may decide to what may look like a accommodation for all students. For example, a professor could say, oh, we're going to untime this test for everyone. That's not a disability accommodation. That's something they decided to do. It may work out that because of that, the student doesn't need an accommodation because that may be all they needed. But they should not have to navigate their accommodations directly with the professors. It is the office. So I would say, again, if somebody has a concern, don't go directly to the professor. You go to the office, and that's where. Criteria to get admitted to CUNY for students with a disability, GPA, SAT, okay. Disability has nothing to do with the admission process to CUNY. A student gets admitted to CUNY because they have achieved the criteria to get into the university. If they have a local diploma, a Regents diploma, they should be admitted, they should apply, should be admitted to the university. When it comes to some of the senior colleges, you know, some colleges are a little tougher than others to get into, or a little bit more demanding. And that's, again, based on the student's qualifications. There is no disability issue. It's not even on the application. You know, there's nothing about it. So other than a student can anonymously say they have a disability, but that has nothing to do with the admission criteria at all. So there should not be something specific. Okay, I'm going back. I see one person has a lot of questions and I'm hoping I can answer them. I'm really trying to answer your questions. And I will say my email is out there. I welcome calls because this is very brief, kind of cursory. So if anyone wants to talk in more depth, you can always reach out to me. I am happy to. I'm afraid to say I'm not going anywhere right now. I am here. So somebody's saying, I said earlier that we need to make sure students whose accommodations include assistive technology receive them at home. How have you made sure that students have what they need at home? Again, the student needs to reach out to the office on the campus they go to discuss their assistive technology needs. We have a CUNY Assistive Technology, CATS. In fact, they're having a conference this week that starts on Thursday. And it is all about ensuring that assistive technology is available. It's possible that a student may not have exactly the same device or type of technology that they use in the course, in the lab, but we will do our best to be sure that the students have what they need at home because they need to have full access to their courses. All right. Okay, somebody is talking about residential services. That's not something that we would address here. If it's residential services outside of CUNY, that's a different, you may need to stay with OPWDD and talk to them. So if you're talking about a student who's coming to CUNY, that's another story. And I would say, let's then talk again with the disability office. All right. Somebody is saying, what would you advise for graduating seniors to have placed on their exit IEP for reference use once they self-identify with disabilities? I like this question. I really do, because I think it's something that we need to share. One of the biggest issues that we sometimes have is, first of all, sometimes students come out, they don't have their IEPs. And we're not just talking about their IEP, but we're talking about the testing that generated that IEP. We're not just looking at the accommodations that a person received in high school. What we're really looking at is working with that student on what accommodations do you need here at the university? And it could be different. You may not have the same accommodations that you did. So what we'd like to see on the exit IEP is updated testing, updated recommendations on accommodations. Sometimes students come to us and they have testing that was done pre-adolescence. Well, we know everybody's changed. So try to keep it as close to current as you can, but make sure students leave with that package, that they have it. And the other thing I would say is, when a student has, and whether it's an IEP or medical documentation or some psychological documentation, it doesn't always come from the high school, it could come from another source. Be sure that you always have that at home. Do not hand it over. Hand over a copy, or let us make a copy. We have a situation right now that has come up with a student at one of the colleges that is applying for a job, but it's through a special service and they need to document their disability, and it's locked up on campus. They didn't keep a copy at home. So our Leads advisor actually took a trip to campus to rescue that information for them. But again, get it updated. Please always have a copy at home with you at all times. Don't ever turn it over, because we see that happens very often, and that's just never helpful for the student. Okay? If a student is in risk group, even if college will be open in September, can the student learn remotely? Learning remotely, everybody learns differently. There are some people that do terrifically remotely. There are some people that are struggling remotely. That's with and without disabilities. And I have to say, that's one of the reasons why the university decided to offer students the opportunity to take credit, no credit, and not take a grade. So just because a student may have a disability or be in some kind of a risk group, if they need to be remote, we have supports in place. But again, it's an individual situation. There may be some people that don't do that well remotely. There are some that do very well. So it's so individual. It's hard to make a general. Okay. So somebody said about utilizing the second pause. It's difficult, all right? And then I don't know, okay. Whoever is saying that they were told not to call the disability office, I would say call the disability office. And if you're not satisfied with that, please call me, all right? I am very accessible. Again, I wanna try to, if we have some situations that need some smoothing over, let's do it, okay? Question about AccessVR again. If a student has an IPE and talks to the counselor about wanting to attend CUNY, do they help the student? No, the student, Access will not apply or help the student apply for CUNY. The student needs to apply directly. Anybody needs to apply to CUNY. Once they are accepted, if AccessVR agrees that CUNY is the goal that they all agree on, then they will help to sponsor that student for the program. But please be sure the student applies directly. Don't rely on somebody else to do it, all right? extended deadlines for students. Yes, it's not too late to apply. You can still apply for the fall semester, okay? And if you go online in the fall, if student starts at 1 and switch to a CUNY closer to their home, when it goes back, students can transfer between colleges. Again, sometimes there are certain criteria about being accepted to a different school, but we see students transfer all the time. In fact, most, well, I wouldn't say most, but a large number of students started a community college and ended up transferring to a 4-year school. So yeah, they could transfer. That's something that they would need to take up, okay? Students with neuromuscular conditions, again, what accommodations, you know, daytime sleepiness. Sometimes we have to set programs with students in a way that they have either it could be a reduced course load, which we can do where it will not affect financial aid. They may have to take courses at certain times. You know, there are some students that do better in the evening, or may need to take a course in the morning and a course in the evening and have a big break during the day. Those are individual issues, very case by case, that again needs to be worked out. But one of the good things is that in most campuses, students with disabilities, there is the opportunity to do some advanced registration, so we can help select classes. If you need certain times of day or certain breaks during the day for an accommodation, we can work with you on that. Okay? How do you declare a disability when you apply online? You don't on the CUNY application. What you would do is contact the disability office and you would talk to them. What we're finding is there are times when we do kind of a temporary acceptance because we don't see the documentation right now and that we know it will follow. So again, online, it's okay. You work it out, you talk about it, you may be able to provide documentation. I've seen people just hold it up to a camera where the disability office can see what the documentation says. So that shouldn't stop somebody. Another AccessVR talks to the counselor about wanting to attend CUNY. Oh, we had that. Okay. Okay. This is a common one. Okay. When trying to talk with the disability office, they won't talk to the parent without a FERPA form. They want this form sent to our son's college email account. He doesn't have an email account. That's interesting. I think somebody needs to have a conversation and discuss that. That seems a little unusual. Yes, they don't. We talk to students. Students are the adults at the university. We will talk to the parents with the student's permission. So I see they're trying to do it through the college email account. Well, they may need to have a conversation about that because that's kind of unusual the way it is. I think I'm trying to think if there are any more. I'm trying to scroll through and see if we got all, because I know your time is limited and I appreciate the time we're spending. For assistive technology, does it have to be documented on their IEP, or could additional services be provided by the college? Again, one by one, case by case, student to the advisor, the disability counselor on campus, to decide what is the best documentation or what is the best accommodation. Sometimes the technology is different for the student than it would be in college versus high school. And sometimes students didn't receive technology in high school and it gets implemented in college. So it doesn't have to follow a prescriptive, follow through of what went through high school through college. It can be different. Are we able to provide psychoeducational evaluations or evals? Okay, we can help students to access that. We can look at your insurance. There are some programs where we could refer you to we will try to help with that when students need evaluations. It's also, you know, AccessVR also has the ability to do some of the assessments. But again, come talk to us and we can talk about how to get that assessment. So I think we may have it covered. If there are any more questions, please come on right now, and I'd like to see what there are. So I think we pretty much summarized. Okay, here's something. Parents of juniors graduating summer 2021, what should they be doing? If you're graduating in 2020 and 21, you don't have to be applying. No, you don't have to apply for 2021 just yet. I would wait until well into the fall and apply then. It may be a good time to take some virtual tours of the different schools, try to get an idea maybe which is the best fit for the student, for the juniors. In the fall, I'd also like to say that Include New York every year, also in collaboration with CUNY, we do a College as Possible night, and we talk about the different services, different programs, and different campuses. But, you know, it's a good time to explore the different colleges. Sometimes I say it's a little bit like chemistry. You can go to a campus and say, this feels right, or this doesn't feel right. You know, we have 25 campuses and they have 25 different personalities. If you go to the College of Staten Island, you know, it's a res life school, it's a sprawling area, it's very beautiful. If you go to Hunter, it's an amazing urban, you know, it's buildings, it's a city campus. So they feel different. Also, depending on your major or what supports you need, what your interests are, certain schools are better for certain things or better fits. So I'd say to the parents of juniors, explore, take a look, get a sense. Right now, unfortunately, the tours are only virtual, but we're hoping that that will change. So I see a question. So the Hunter, did I say the financial aid? You haven't heard. Try again, give a call, all right? Just call. Most phone lines are being picked up or transferred. It's possible, depending on when you sent, you know, trying to understand that everybody had a big barrage all at once. If some things got lost in this shuffle, don't feel insulted, don't get frustrated, just give another call, circle back. And again, I'm offering myself as a resource if somebody is experiencing some kind of issue that you need a little help navigating, you've got my information. Please call me. Call me, email me. I would really like to help. Somebody is having problems getting hold of the Residency Department. I'm not 100% sure what the issue is here, but yeah, always start with your disability counselor. If you're in CUNY Leads, start with your CUNY Leads advisor too. I always say the CUNY Leads advisor is your go-to person. You don't know where to go, go there. They're very helpful. They're fabulous. They help with all kinds of issues, not only employment, and all of these support services, CUNY Leads, Project Reach, CUNY Leads, well, CUNY Leads Plus is Access, but none of them come with any cost or paperwork. They're just a matter of let us know you're interested in them and we will be there to help you with that. Can students take early college classes? I think that is still going to be in place. It'll be remote. All right, so you may need to talk to the high school that you're attending. I'm not sure I can answer that. A big issue with time, sleepiness. Is it a learning disability? Can't answer that one, all right? A learning disability is something that would have to be diagnosed. Why is a person having sleepiness issues? There could be a variety of reasons. That needs to be researched individually. Is it true that a student is eligible for financial aid even if a student is a part-time? Okay, here's the way this works. When it comes to TAP, generally you need to be a full-time student. However, if a student for disability reasons needs to be less than full-time, we can certify that student for ADA part-time TAP. And the minimum credits, it's a matter of how many credits that particular student can take per semester. And it can vary. We've had students, say, with a significant disability, maybe let's say in math, if they're doing a math course for disability reasons, that could be the only thing they're taking. Sometimes we have students who go through illnesses that have cycles, or they may be treated with chemotherapy where they're going to have a semester or a period of time when they really can't take too much. That semester they may be part-time. We can certify you for part-time TAP. So that means they do not have to be full-time as long as it's for disability reasons and as long as it's been certified by the disability office. Okay, any assistance navigating the college premises beginning of the year? Well, there's assistance navigating or learning about the college premises once we get there. Hopefully we will get there soon. There's usually tours, there's help. People do need help navigating or learning about the campus when they get started, when they're online, on board physically. We hope that happens soon, but again, that we're not up. It's not our decision right now. It's fluid, and we're just, as we speak, things could be changing. Okay, Christopher, you want to take classes in 2021 in web design? What computers are being offered at CUNY? Well, you have an interesting question. There are many computer courses. I would check through the different campus catalogs. Is there a possible that remote learning will go into 2021? Let's put it this way. We can and we hope to be back on campus, but there's always online learning going on. So there's always the ability to take courses online, even at a time when, you know, pre-COVID, post-COVID, as long as we're here, we will have remote learning available. Okay, question. The campuses with Project Reach. Okay, that is our program for support services for our students who are autistic. And Project Reach, again, supports the whole university, but there are 5 pilot campuses that have kind of full reach programs, and that is BMCC, Brooklyn College, College of Staten Island, Kingsborough Community College, and LaGuardia Community College. And you don't have to remember that because that is in the handout that we provided. So it does explain the different programs. What's interesting too on our autistic programs, one of the things we found has really been very useful is mentors, which one of the programs in Staten Island developed. Students can be mentees and then they can become mentors. And we just completed, it's going to go online fairly soon, a guide, a mentor training guide for students who are becoming mentors. And what's really great about it is it was written by an autistic social worker. So it's written for people who are autistic by someone who is autistic, and it's really insightful and really helpful. So support for our students who are autistic is really quite good, and I hope that answers your question about the campuses. How do you find out about movie nights and other events? All right, if you're a student of the campus, CCSD posts all the time. They have a Facebook page as well. It's the CUNY Coalition for Students with Disabilities. Any question you can ask in your disability office or go online and check out CCSD. It would be on the CUNY page for disability. We also have a Twitter account, and on Twitter, we're at CUNY Disability. We tend to post events. So you can see that, or go on cuny.edu disability, and you will see the link to the different events. And they are having a movie this Thursday. And what they do is they never disclose the movie. They give a hint, and then you have to kind of figure it out and guess, but everybody is invited, and they're usually a lot of fun. Okay, so that was 2 questions about movie night. Okay, as students typically commute by public transit, how does CUNY plan to support and address students and families? Yes, this is a big concern, all right, about travel. And that is why one of the issues we have regarding reopening is putting a plan in place to be sure that our students are safe. And there may be a case where there could be students who may need to remain remote or part-time remote. So, you know, if a student seriously can't, you know, would be seriously jeopardized for a while in the public, they may still need to stay on remote and get support. So these are all the kinds of things that are being addressed. And I'm sure, you know, as you hear the governors and the mayor's updates, these are areas that are really affect when and how the university and just the city and state in general can open. Okay, Project REACH was shared. What's the difference between REACH and LEADS? REACH is specifically for students who are autistic. LEADS provides linking employment, academic, and disability services, focuses on careers. It's for any student with a disability. If you are a student of REACH, you can also be with LEADS, all right? You're still gonna wanna focus on careers. You can be with both. Okay, and now we have a question about a 4-year college from a community college where he had accommodations in the CUNY system. Will he most likely have the same accommodations in September? From a 2-year to the 4-year, generally speaking, you will have the accommodations you need. If those are the same accommodations, you generally have them. I hope your son who is transferring from the community and anybody else who's involved in this situation has a relationship with the disability office, with their LEADS advisor, and they can just kind of help that transition be smooth. So yes, hopefully he will have the same accommodations. Unless there's a change, he may need different ones. So that's something that would need to be addressed. So I'm hoping that we have helped you and that it does provide some of the information that you need about CUNY. Again, our biggest concern is we hope you are all healthy and well. Working with some of the students, I can't begin to tell you some of the stories we've seen. We've had students who've lost family members. I had someone who lost both parents. The campus has connected the student with legal issues, you know, legal people to help with financial services. We've had students that have lost jobs, need to get jobs. They're hiring a lot of the, you know, tracers. We're helping people to, you know, any kind of jobs that have gone remote, can go remote. We're really trying to connect our students and be sure that they're successful, not just academically, but career-wise, internship-wise, every which way. And also those social contacts that are made last forever and the networking. So I hope this answers your question. I want to thank everybody for your time. I hope I've been able to answer some questions that you have and give you some just information about how we're doing with COVID and going forward. I wish you all well, And I know Rich put up the helpline. So if anybody has any issues and needs the helpline, at include, it's 212-677-4660. And in Spanish, it's 212-677-4668. You have my email address. We welcome students to CUNY. It is a very inclusive environment, and hopefully we'll see you there and in good health. And again, feel free to stay in touch. So thank you.